All right, everyone. So we have some interesting comments made by the creators of Avatar The Last Airbender, Michael Dante DiMartino and Brian Konietzko, and we're going to be looking over all of their comments that they made recently when it comes to the actual canon of the comic books and the novels, their comments on what the actual movies are going to be about, and their comments when it comes to the actual animation style of these movies that are going to be coming to us in the future. But before we get to all of those, I want to give full credit to Avatar News, as always, for sharing this information with us. So head on over to Twitter, follow them to be updated on anything related to Avatar The Last Airbender if you are a fan as I am, and you want to be updated on anything that has to do with either the movies or the live action adaptation on Netflix if you're interested in that. So let's get to these comments. First thing that I want to talk about is this right here. So they made some statements when it comes to the expanded universe, I guess, you know, the comics and the books, and whether or not they are still canon to the actual story. So according to them, and this is the actual quote right here, according to them, the books and the comics are still canon, but they may go back and, you know, make some tweaks here and there so it can line up with whatever it is they're doing now, or maybe something that they'll do in the future. So the actual quote is, "We've been involved in all those main ancillary stories, so in our minds it's mostly canon. There's probably some stuff we may go back, like that doesn't totally line up with this, so there may be some little tweaks here and there, but as of right now we're proceeding as if all this stuff is part of the proper universe and hopefully building on it." So there you go. That's their comment on, or Mike's comment on, whether or not these comics and the Kyoshi novels and the upcoming Yang Chen novels are going to be canon to the actual story. And according to them, most of it is canon, but some things may be changed based on whatever it is that they're doing now. And if I'm being honest, I don't really know how I feel about this, because in a lot of fandoms, and if you've been a part of like multiple different fandoms, you probably already know this, but sometimes the discussion of canon can be a little bit messy, especially when you have, you know, a series that has started off as either movies or a TV show, and then there are comics and books that actually add on to the story that build the world. And a lot of people question about whether or not those books are canon, whether they're canon or not, and it can lead to this whole messy debate. And I feel like if they really do go down this route where they say that, you know, the books are mostly canon, but some things here and there may change, it could lead to certain discussions where people could say, well, if you look at well, this book says this about this character, and then someone could say, well, yeah, but this new thing doesn't say that. And if you know what the author said, it's like you can't look at what's in the older material, you got to look at what's in the new material, because they said that it might, you know, they said that that's no longer canon, this new thing is what is the actual canon. You know what I mean? It could just lead to that whole messy debate when it comes to canon. And it's just, I mean, if you've been a part of any fandom for a while now, you'll know that kind of, you know, debates can be a little bit exhausting, you know. So that's kind of one thing that I'm a little bit worried about. But hey, whatever. I mean, they're the creators, I guess, so they can do whatever the hell they want. It's their thing. So next thing that I want to talk about is this right here. So they also talked about whether or not these movies are going to be adaptations of the already existing material, like the comics and the graphic novels, or excuse me, the novels, not the graphic novels. The graphic novels are the comics, and they're also the actual novels. You know, the Kyoshi novel and the Yang Chen novel that's going to be released soon, or maybe it's already been released. I don't know. I'll have to check. So let's look at the actual comments again, or the actual quote from them. So Mike says, "I think the thing we're not doing now, not saying this couldn't happen someday, is like, we're not adapting the graphic novels into a movie or a TV show. We're not adapting the YA novels into a movie or a TV show." And then Brian says, "But we are feeding off them." So if you've been wondering whether these movies that have been, you know, reported on, whether it's Avatar News or maybe you saw it somewhere else, and you thought that, oh, this is going to be an adaptation of, let's say, The Search, for example, or what was the other one? There's also Smoke and Shadow, there's North and South, there was another one that takes place after the war ended. I'm kind of Oh, The Promise. Yeah, maybe it's going to be an adaptation of The Promise, but it turns out no, it's not going to be an adaptation of any of those stories. And I know a lot of people are probably not going to be happy about that. They probably wanted The Search to be adapted into a movie, and I completely understand that. But according to them, it's going to be completely new stories. And if I'm being honest, I would kind of prefer that. Like, I would prefer we get a completely new story as opposed to an adaptation of a story that we already know. But again, that's just me. If you don't agree with that, that's completely fine. So let's get to the last thing that I want to talk about before I wrap up the video, which has to do with the actual animation style of these movies. So according to them, the animation style that they're looking for is still going to be 2D. So if you're worried that it's going to be 3D, then that's actually not the case, again, according to the creators. And it's not going to be the same style as the Spider-Verse movie or the Arcane series, even though I love how that series looks. I absolutely love the animation in that TV show, and I'm really looking forward to season 2. If you haven't watched Arcane, I do highly recommend you go watch it. It's really good. So again, let's get to the actual quote from them. So here we go. Brian says, "We love all sorts of animation. We're going to be doing all sorts of things, but our main bread and butter is 2D animation. It's an homage to anime and all the stuff that we love. That doesn't mean we're going to be like hardcore straight edge 2D using cells and painting the backgrounds with poster paint. The way we always look at it is start with hand-drawn, handmade artwork, and then what can technology do to help us enhance it, to help us deepen it, to help the filmmaking to make it more cinematic. But we're always going to be coming at it from that 2D direction. We're not planning on doing anything at the moment, especially none of our big projects that are starting purely 3D and then trying to stylize them. We looked at it, we thought about it, and there's beautiful stuff happening in that space. Arcane and Spider-Verse, there you go, are gorgeous and groundbreaking and pushing the envelope, but that's their own look, and we're not chasing that stuff. We didn't form Avatar Studios to go chasing someone else's coattails. I don't know if I would have put it that way, but whatever. I think that stuff's beautiful, but a ton of other studios are chasing those looks. Leave that to them. Those artists worked hard to form that look, and we're looking hard to form our own look, but we're not doing anything purely 3D. So there you go. If you're worried that it's going to be moving from 2D to 3D, apparently that's not the case. It's still going to be 2D, but they're just going to use 3D to try to enhance it. Like maybe it's going to be a case where they're going to use 3D just for the actual landscape, and they're going to use it to get more dynamic camera angles, but the actual let's say the characters, and let's say there's going to be a fight, or there's, let's say, a dynamic chase scene, and they're going to be using 3D to render out the background or the actual location, and the characters themselves are going to be moving in 2D. At least that's what I'm guessing is probably what they mean. We'll have to we're just gonna have to wait before we get an actual visual to know what it is that they mean by this. But there you go. So if you were worried about this movie being 3D, apparently that's not the case. It's not going to be completely 3D. It's not going to be 3D models made to look like 2D two-dimensional characters. So I guess if you're worried about that, you don't really have to be. But again, we'll have to wait and see until we get some actual visuals to know what it is exactly that they're talking about. So with all that out of the way, guys, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And while you're here, consider leaving a like. Please share this video out there. Make sure to hit the subscribe button if you're new. Hit the bell icon to be notified whenever I post a new video, because YouTube's notification system is still kind of broken. So there you go. Make sure to click on all notifications to be notified whenever I post a new video. And I hope I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye for now.